Hello and welcome to the Brightwork podcast where art, technology, advocacy, and optimism collide. Today I'm sitting down with Chef Tommy Mitrakos, who is a professional chef based in South Florida whose expertise lies in traditional Greek food, high-end cuisine, and inventive vegan dishes that break the mold on what's possible when you cook plant-based. His culinary career has brought him from life growing up on Long Island to reimagining the Greek menu of a bustling Queen's diner, private chefing on the shores of the Hamptons, which is where I met him, and serving the fine diners of a Floridian country club. And that's just the beginning. This is a good one. I'm so excited to share it with you. You might want to grab a snack because we are going to be talking about a lot of delicious food and it might give you a little FOMO. Tommy, welcome. Can you also, just so I know it, how do you say your last name?
Mitrakos.
Mitrakos. Okay, are you Greek? Is that Greek?
Yep. Greek.
Okay. Do you have like a lot of like link to your Greek heritage or not so much?
Uh, my family's very small, my Greek side, but mainly my grandmother's from, or Yaya is from Sparta, so she's like from the heart of Greece.
Oh, nice.
And then my papu is from a little island called Exocambri. So
Nice.
they're very Greek. My father and uncle spoke Greek, understood it. Uh, but me and my sister do not understand a word of Greek.
No. Have you been there?
No, we,
Really?
yeah, we always wanted to take a trip, and I believe they had a house there and a big farm, olive farm.
Nice.
So it's something I definitely would have loved to have visited where they had it, but next time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's life. It happens that way
Yeah.
sometimes. Um, so do you know or like to cook Greek food?
Oh, I love cooking Greek food.
Yeah.
I
Like,
had an opportunity to uh help open a Greek restaurant in Long Island.
oh,
Uh,
sweet.
so I could cook Greek food with my eyes closed.
Nice.
It's something just for my grandparents cooking whenever they babysitted, or we were over for a family party or an event. It's just you could taste it and knew exactly what they put in it.
What are like some of the recipes they'd make for you?
Ooh. Maybe like Greek avgolemono soup. It's like a really rich, flavorful chicken stock.
Hmm.
They whisk in eggs and lemon juice, and it just gives it like this thick chowder like consistency, like that thick soup. And then with some pulled chicken, maybe some potatoes tossed in there.
Mm.
It was like that best. It warmed up your body.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had. I mean, I know like Long Island, there's a decent like I believe there's decent Greek food and decent Greek
Yeah,
culture, but I've never really tried it
Greek
to
I
be
think
honest.
is like the most flavorful food that goes back to history. Like I don't think Greek people deviate very much. I think that they stick to what they know, and they're fine with that.
And they do it well.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, do it well. You said you opened a Greek restaurant. Can you tell me more about that? And also like for people listening, just give like a little background on like, overarching of your career, who you are.
So that was like right out of college. My cousin Pete and Jimmy had a diner, and they wanted more of like a restaurant feel to it. So we had that traditional 17-page menu. Everyone knew they wanted to get once you went into a diner anyway, but we had it. We had the matzo ball soup, the pancakes, the fresh waffles. Everything was made in house. Uh, French fries were fresh, home fries were fresh, nothing was frozen. It was just fast pace all day long. But when it came to the actual meals that the diners didn't create, like the dinners, that they didn't really take time and effort to make dinner. They were great at making breakfast. But in my eyes, I think diners always lacked in the late night food, like the dinner food, the entree.
Mm.
Um, and we always had specials. We always had some of the most delicious fish dishes and lobster and salmon, and we were killing it. Like at Bayside, we had between Jackson Hole, I don't know what the other diner was over there. Bayside Diner. We were we were on the top of the list. Um,
That's such a small world because I was visiting my friend in Astoria on Friday, and
yeah,
I drive past, is the Jackson Hole Diner is like right along the road there,
yeah.
like the highway. I
So our
never know,
diner,
I never noticed it until literally Friday, so that's crazy that you mentioned that.
our diner was on Bell and 26th Avenue. It was right at the edge of the highway. Um,
Nice.
and it was in the shopping center of like Tony Roma's, Peter Pan's. Um,
Okay.
we were called Terrace Diner.
Terrace Diner,
We were
sweet.
right up on the hill. We came drive up, and we were the first spot in the uh like the row of stores.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was there from the time we opened to the time we closed. There was a flood of people all day long.
That's awesome. Um, when you're like looking at a project like that of like, okay, here's a diner, but we need to add in some dinner food and just give it more of a restaurant feel, like where do you even begin with that?
I probably was in over my head at that time because I just graduated college. Um,
Best time to be in over your head.
yeah, but you got to just go with it. This industry is one of those things where you kind of just got you have that mindset. You as a chef, you know where you want to go. You know your set plan, but then something happens and you got to just roll with it.
Yeah.
Change of plan, things happen, and now we're gonna figure it out and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that moment happened. I was like, all right, I'm only 21 years old, and we're gonna be running a diner. I had some lady teaching me how to make matzo ball soup, matzo
Awesome.
ball, and it was probably the best matzo ball I've ever had. So now that's what we make. We made that matzo ball, that recipe.
That's amazing. I think what's really cool about um like the chef and culinary industry, from what I've learned, like working alongside you guys. I met Chef Tommy working with the Sofo spoon. And then like even just from media, like the show The Bear, like what's cool is that
Oh,
you study under other chefs like very regularly to try and learn what food they make best and why they make it that way. And like it's you're learning the recipes collaboratively.
I think that's like the most. I do that a lot. If I see a picture just on Instagram or TikTok or Pinterest, a couple days later, I'm in the kitchen. I'm trying to I don't even know what it is. I just know it might have peaches. It might have maybe some sort of black sauce. And I recreate it just to see
Mm-hmm.
if I can get it close to the same picture as they were posted. Um, but yeah, cooking is, I've come to realize this past year that it's very hard for a lot of people to do. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
even
it is.
and even just to follow a recipe, sometimes like my little sister, I give her a recipe and it comes out great. And she goes, but it was so hard. I'm like, what was hard? I don't get it. Like it's written out in front of you what was hard. But I gotta remember I went to school, I've worked in plenty of restaurants. For me, this is like breathing. It's natural.
Did you ever play the game The Sims?
Yeah, so I just recently started playing that.
Okay.
And I think the world we live in is like the game The Sims. And my girlfriend said to me, she goes, "Look, you're the chef." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? They have a chef in this game too?" And I was like,
Oh, they have everything. I played that game religiously growing up, but they have the different skills, and in
"Yeah,
the chef skill, like or the cooking skill, you gain the bar each, you have to fill the bar, and then once you fill the bar, you get to move on to like the next level. But
wild."
the first like two or three levels, they're like putting stuff in the oven and they start a fire. Like that's what I feel like is hard about cooking as someone who like taught it to myself pretty much in my 20s. um,
Yeah.
is that you go in with the best intentions, but like I don't know exactly the right pan to use or like how hot to put the stove, and like you put it in and then you burn it and you're like, I don't know how that happened, and now the whole dish is messed up. And also it's just so much work to top everything, and like keeping the order of like this needs to go on now, and if I time this right then this dish is ready. This
Timing is everything.
Yeah. It's so much.
And it's funny, like you were saying that, like you didn't know what pan to use or what to cook it with or what in. Everyone's oven's different. Everyone's pan is different. Everyone can use the same oil and butter, but you might use a Teflon pan, and I'm going to use a stainless steel. We're going to have two totally different outcomes, possibly. And that's where that whole thing that these recipes don't embellish on what temperature to keep it at, or do you have an electric stove or do you have a gas stove?
Mm-hmm.
I burn stuff on this electric stove all day long. I don't understand why it gets so hot.
Oh. I
Yeah,
don't like, I love a gas range. I don't
yeah.
like the
I
electric.
do not like electric stoves at all. I'm really trying to get used to this, but it's really hard. And not a lot of places down here in Florida have gas besides like commercial buildings, restaurants.
Oh, really? It's not as common.
Yeah, not in buildings or houses. Like my mom's house, my grandmother's house, all of them down here all have electric.
I feel
They're
like
nice,
it's
but
I used to be a property manager for like a brief stint in my life, and I feel like it's probably just like a fire hat. Like they just want to
yeah,
protect their liability.
I think it's insurance purposes.
Yeah. But it's different because I feel like fire, like you get, like I'm a spiritual person, and like fire you get that energy like directly into your food, and I feel like electric stoves and all of that, it's just a little dimmed down.
Kind of like the microwave without the microwaves.
Yes. Oh, I hate, very recently I really hate putting anything in the microwave. I didn't, like,
I
I
use
grew up
it for
microwave
storage.
a lot of stuff, but I don't mess with it anymore.
Yeah, me and Chef Mike don't like each other.
That's funny, Chef Mike. For someone who studied this like professionally, you studied it, you work in it professionally, what is like for a beginner cook or someone who's trying to improve their skills, like if you had to just dumb it down to like a key principle or two of like how to make a good meal?
I was asked this question a long time ago when I was in vocational school, and my chef said, and I remember exactly. He goes, "Cook what you remember eating last at home. Just cook something you enjoy eating at home, whether it's mac and
Mm,
cheese or pizza or a grilled hot dog. It's something that you know how to do, something you're comfortable at doing, and something you've done probably dozens of times by yourself at home. Cook that." So I made chicken parmesan. And he looked at me, he goes, "This is what you made?" And I was like, "No, in my head, I got this guy that's like 50 years old. I'm a kid. He's a grown adult." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do you understand you made a very difficult dish for some people?" And I was like, "Let's chicken parmesan. I said we make this once a week at home." And he goes, "All right." He goes, "Let's see what everyone else makes." Someone made a boiled hot dog. Someone made an English muffin, like pizza bagel.
Mhm.
Simple things. So he goes, "That's the answer to your question." He goes, "You cook the way you feel comfortable." And I feel like that's where people, chefs struggle. They're trying to get too advanced and they're not really there yet.
Mm. Okay, so like cooking what you're used to, what you know, and just trying to improve on it a little bit each
Good.
time.
Like now I'm at the point, cooking fancy food is great. It's super artsy. It's a lot of fun. But then the consumer is going to destroy it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like,
Literally.
why did I just waste?
Unless their phone eats it first, and then you've got
Yes.
a picture.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
then, like, that's 12 hours it took me to create that dish. Now it's gone, and
Oh my God.
now I want to cook really good food, make it simple for people, and just have it be delicious.
When you say 12 hours, is that like prep time? Like, why is it
Yeah,
taking that
that
long?
will be that's gonna be a mixture of prep time. That's gonna be a mixture of cook time, time it's gonna take for it to be picked up, which is only short minutes, but it's all a mix of everything. And not just one person might have prepped one dish. I might have had three different hands prep five different items for the dish.
Hmm.
Could have been doing carrots for the whole restaurant, but that one carrot also was needed for this dish. And it took them a whole hour to clean all of the carrots.
Right.
Now I have to divvy that down into each dish. All right, well, I have carrots on two dishes. Now that's a half hour of labor time that goes into each dish.
Hmm.
It's a lot more than just cooking sometimes.
Right, right. I
It,
know.
some people like to be called chef, and they don't realize that there's the scheduling, the food costing, labor costing, everything, making sure that the dish is $27, not $16, because you didn't factor in labor cost, or
Mm,
some items might even take delivery charges, like an astronomical delivery charge. You have to kind of figure out how to wiggle that into the product. That's not
right.
that's money disappearing.
Very business mindset because obviously there is like a very real cost in time and labor and like even just things growing that go into it. Do
Yeah.
you enjoy that part of it, like the cost analysis and everything? The
I
business?
don't know if I would use the word enjoy,
Okay.
but I do know how to do it.
Okay.
uh no, it's enjoyable in the sense that I know that my money is being accounted for properly, that it's not just being wasted, um, that I'm making my money back on the product.
Hmm.
Um, and if I'm selling a lot of them, then it shows that my food's good and that my pricing is somewhere of a fair range for people
Right.
to eat.
Like a necessary evil, I guess.
Yeah, you know,
Um, oh sorry, I didn't mean to. I
that's a
just
good.
that made me think because just as like an everyday person who's cooking for myself or cooking for my family, um there is like, we're in a tricky world right now. Cost of living can be tough for a lot of people. Do you find that that skill of like cost analysis for the food can kind of like transfer into like your budgeting and like making smart choices of like cooking great for yourself while not like breaking the bank?
I was just taking notice to just even where I live in Boynton and where I was in Port St. Lucie, prices and things in grocery stores are drastically different. You know,
Mm,
not within pennies, but within dollars. We'll just talk about like eggs because
yeah.
it's the topic of everyone. Everyone's eggs are going crazy. How much is a dozen of eggs in New York right now?
Yeah, I was just texting my friends about this morning. Where I am on Long Island, you can go to a grocery store and get them between like 5.50 and $7 for a dozen right now.
So that's what I was used to. And
Hmm.
working out east, you would get them even cheaper, maybe like $2 or $3 for a dozen, and they were free range, cage free, organic eggs. And
That's
that
what it used to be. Like I feel like last year it was that.
nine it's $9.80
Oh my,
for I used to buy three dozen at a time. I was like, oh, we're just gonna get one.
yeah, seriously. And
That's crazy.
in New York City, the bodegas are selling them by like you can buy like three at a time or buy each.
My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you were saying, when you going to a supermarket, sometimes it's always better to get the fresh vegetables and the fresh meats. But like I find a store here by me called Wild Fork, and it's got some of the nicest pre-cut meats that are cryovac, flash frozen, um, beautiful, and they're a fraction of the price. Uh,
Mm.
do I break the bank and get the fresh steak, or do I go with the frozen? Now, a normal person would be like, well, I won't buy frozen. I'm always going to buy fresh. But that's not where the educational purpose will have to come into play, where that was cut fresh. It was frozen IQF, so it's individually quick frozen. So it lost no nutritional value. It didn't lose its natural coloring. its tenderness, and then it's cryovac immediately. So now all the air, all the contaminants in out of it. That meat that would have cost me $34 a pound cost me $12 a pound here at this store. I
Mm,
automatically buy that $12 a pound, not because it's cheaper, but because I'm still getting the same product, but because they did more to preserve it, it's going to cost less.
mm,
So, same thing with vegetables. Would I get the fresh broccoli? Yeah, I probably would love to get fresh broccoli. But at the same time, fresh broccoli and frozen broccoli at this point are the same nutritional value.
mm.
The bag that's in 99 cents that you take out, put in your steamer, and you got to do the same cooking process. You still got to steam it, you still got to cook it. It's just $5 less a head.
Right. Okay, so if you were like just from a point of like final product, forget price, do you have it's just the same way to cook it like frozen versus fresh? Because I've tried to make frozen vegetables and like I just can't figure out how to make them taste good. Like I feel like I always can just tell that they're
Always
just
designed to be microwaved. That's the only thing that's bad about the frozen
yeah.
vegetables. They don't really give you directions to take them out of the bag and saute them or defrost them. Um, so that goes into the whole thing of now I know that I could just take a frozen vegetable and saute it, no problem, but it's going to be very watery. Um, some people just toss it right in the microwave and say, you know what, it's done. I'm going to strain the water out, toss my olive oil, my dressing, whatever on it, and
That's how I grew up. Frozen microwave vegetables.
yeah. You listen, you're not the only one. I've been
Yeah.
to plenty of customers' houses, and uh, their whole fridge is just frozen vegetables that they pulled out from the night before so they could cook them to go to work. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what you do? Like strips of chicken, everything, meatballs, uh,
Huh. Yeah.
you name it, it was in a package and in the freezer and then in the fridge the day before. And I'm like, that's when I realized I said, I'm gonna have to start doing some sort of like cooking classes for people because I feel really bad. Like people
Yeah.
eat healthy. I,
I
I
think
was I was overweight, and once I started taking control of my health and like portioning and going back to nutritional school and doing I put myself through a test, and it's what we eat is our own demise.
mm,
We have to eat healthy.
or your own well like thriving if you're doing it intentionally.
Yeah,
Doesn't have to be demise, but it definitely is demise. I feel like yeah, the
it,
way that our food system's set up right now, it's demise. Like,
I don't understand how the lines on McDonald's and Checkers is still 17 people long every single day, all day long. Like,
yeah. It
and
used to make a little bit of sense because it was like quote unquote more affordable, but now the prices are really not much different than like going to a quality restaurant.
forget about even the prices. McDonald's alone, I just found this out. A buddy of mine lives in California, and he's a cop, and he wants something quick to eat, and he goes into the McDonald's and he goes, "Dude, look at this." FaceTimes me and he shows me the sign, and it's I couldn't really read it; it looked blurry, but he's like, "Dude, it's telling us that foods here will cause severe health issues or cancer." And I'm like,
Oh, because California has those regulations where it all has to be
have
like,
to be disclosed.
yeah,
It has to be
oh,
disclosed.
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my God." I said it, and I remember in culinary school that they were teaching us about like I really grasped onto farming and harvesting plants and growing stuff, growing fruits and vegetables, and everything has to do with like the growing of these fruits and vegetables. McDonald's potatoes alone, they pick them 2 weeks under ripen, and they spray them with this chemical that the person who sprays it has to wear a full protective suit, a respirator, and then can't go into that room where those potatoes are for 2 weeks because the potatoes have to off gas that chemical.
Ugh.
So you're trying to tell me that this factory that's a football field deep and high, that's full of potatoes, the ones on the bottom still don't have like this gas in them because it's like had to travel 30, maybe 40 feet in the air to get out. Like, I won't eat that ever again.
What is the purpose of it? Like
Like,
to
why can't we?
preserve
It's just to
it?
speed the growth process up. So
Ooh,
instead of a potato taking a whole growth semester, maybe like 5 or 6 months, it might only take 2 months. 2 months and 2 weeks, they spray this chemical on it.
that's horrible. And you know what is crazy too is like I've heard an iteration of that um process before, and it's like crazy because you can know it and still like be in a situation where someone offers you McDonald's fries and and like the fact leaves your mind for a second until you do it 2 or 3 times and you're like, why am I still doing this?
No,
This is
they're
terrible.
all my family and friends, they don't offer me any of that. They're like, oh, do you want to go? They won't even do it because the answer will always be no. I
Yeah.
would rather a nice fresh piece of meat. I'd rather some fresh vegetables on the grill. Uh, if it's pasta, it's got to be fresh. Like I'm super picky with food now. You
Hmm.
go out to eat, it's just, and down here the food is horrible. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the water, but it's not like New York food or New York City food or Long Island food where everything's just super flavorful. It's always
Interesting.
looks good. It's just, I don't know. The food down here is missing something.
Like restaurant food, grocery store
It's
food.
very, it's very chain take. It's taken over by chains.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. I've
It's,
visited Florida a few times and I feel like it does there's a
it's
lot of
good.
fast food options.
I feel like every day is Saturday out here.
Yeah, it's a different world for
I got
sure.
organic coconuts growing right next to my head that I can't wait till they drop so I can grab one.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have garden space where you're living now?
Oh, I'm staring at it. It's kind of like,
A little bit.
let's see. My girlfriend,
Ah,
my
oh,
girlfriend
very
doesn't have the
well.
whole balcony, so we get a little privacy. But it just, I got an avocado tree. I got a fig tree.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet.
I got
Did
an
you?
Macintosh from Long Island that I picked from a
Nice.
farm. So I got a little Long Island still with me down here.
That's very nice. Did you? Okay, so that's like very feasible for people because been I've been on a whole whirlwind of a healthy, not even healthy, but just like nourishing, non-processed food journey for a while. And it's like I feel like it's been a slow process because I'm like self-educating myself, and then you
Yeah.
have to like break kind of like your own food addictions and it's all this stuff. But in that process, I've been for a while wanting to start gardening, but I just like the process feels overwhelming to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna start with like potted
Oh,
edible
that's so
plant.
small.
Yeah.
Some
So
people
what
even sells like I threw it away, but it wasn't this red pot. They sell the bowl with the dirt and the seed
Mhm.
in it and the clear cover gives you the
Yeah.
dimensions. You water it every whatever it says, and it's got everything contained in it. You don't have to do
Hmm.
anything but just water it, and it grows. Things, and you just trial and error.
Hmm.
Even with farming, like my family had farms in Pennsylvania, but I never did farming with them, so I was never taught how to farm. But shit, I could grow tomatoes and corn like no tomorrow. Like apple trees. I have an apple tree and an avocado tree there. Hopefully gonna grow an avocado in the next year. Like I've
Fully.
never done this, but it's working out.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's what I'm trying to remind myself is like just start small, just do like I just the other day bought like a hydroponic basil, so it's already all grown and you literally just put it in with water and just keep watering it. And so far I've like put it on my pasta. I'm like, this is great, tastes great, but I want to grow more also just because I want to like know where my food is coming from and not feel like reliant on fluctuating prices and like what's
yeah.
available in the stores.
I feel like you just said something that should be like maybe a next topic on hand of yours.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
local person, someone I think we both know, and grows hydroponic basil.
Yes.
Corey.
Yes, he does. I actually haven't met Corey. I've just heard
No,
of Corey
I
because
heard Corey's great.
yeah, Corey works for private chef company, the Sofo Spoon,
Yeah.
and I started with them in the summer, so I've only been on select events. So I haven't met him, but I want to.
Oh yeah. You have
Do you know more about it, like his
yeah.
business and everything?
He just started. He just opened a bigger facility, um, and he's producing hundreds of pounds of basil. Like,
Awesome.
yeah, and it's amazing how much he's making now in basil. And anything grown in dirt tastes some sort of different way versus something that's grown in water with nutrients, hydroponic, aquaponics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Corey's basil is just so clean. It's so fresh.
Mm,
It doesn't have that bitter green taste that a lot of greens have. Uh, it's amazing. And
yeah,
some of the top pizzerias on Long Island now are using them. And
that's
I said to Corey the other day, I said, their pizza is just going to taste 10 times better now.
mm,
Just this basil alone, I was using it to make pesto for every single party. We, Corey even put a hydroponics wall in my restaurant in Queens.
oh,
Having
seriously?
having fresh basil being pulled right out of the wall.
That's
So
amazing.
hydroponics is the best way. If I had space out here, I would have, you know what? Now that we said it, I might just start doing it.
Yeah.
Is that it's perfect space for stuff like this. Nice little patio, someone who has a little garden space, just plug it in and let it go.
Do you know much about? Okay, wait. First, before I forget, can you
Yeah.
remind me the name of his company so we can mention it? I just don't remember what it's called.
I believe it's called Urban Farm. Sorry, Corey. I know you, buddy, but I don't really know your company that well.
I think you're right. Wait, I just want
Yeah, Urban
to.
Field Agriculture. Yes.
That sounds right. Yeah. Okay. Urban Fields Agriculture. Go check it out. Um,
Here, I'll give you a
I,
little picture. Is it gonna show up?
oh, perfect. Yeah, I can see it. Um, okay. Wait. Do you know much about that process, like how to do it?
Uh, I'm not 100%, but I do know how it works and stages that it goes through. After Corey installed it in the restaurant, I checked up on it daily to make sure things were working. So he gave me a quick
Mhm.
crash course. I've been to his facilities to see how everything's growing there. Um, just like anything that grows, there's a light cycle. You know, naturally it's on certain hours and dark certain hours. With
Right.
hydroponics, it's the same thing. There's certain hours that the lights will be on, and certain hours the lights will be off,
Hmm.
but there still be water constantly flowing through PVC pipes or PVC beds with rock wool that's housing the roots. Um,
Hmm.
it's severely more advanced than like just tossing something in a pot of water and growing it. Like all of my orchids are in pots of water, but there's no
Right.
that's put into it. It's all natural. It's done itself. With hydroponics, you got to add the nutrients to the water. You got to make sure the water's constantly flowing. Um, you got to make sure that there's no algae starting to grow in there because then it's going to start to kill the plants. Uh,
Mm,
if your lights aren't on long enough or aren't off long enough, or vice versa, um, it could discolor the plants. It could stunt the growth of the plants. There's there's a lot to it.
yeah. It's like making a whole new ecosystem for
Yeah.
it. What are the I guess like what's the benefit to it, or like what's the I don't know, like why do people start doing that? Do you know? I'm just
Question.
curious.
Oh wow. I would have to say maybe like space limiting.
That's what I kind of thought is like if you're limited on land.
Yeah. It's the only thing I could possibly really think of is space, and being able to control what's going in it. You know,
Mhm.
vegetables and fruits are very susceptible into what it's growing. I remember I did the tour in, I think it's Epcot in Florida and Disney.
Mm-hmm.
and they show you the whole indoor dome of everything growing. Everything's in sand, but underneath the sand is hydroponic system that's filling the whole nutrient system with water that has nutrients flooding it all day long.
Disney grows its own food?
Oh yeah.
Wait, I had no
Amazing.
idea. What? I
So
didn't know
I
that at all.
think it's Epcot. I'm really my memory is very shot, but I think it's Epcot. Oh, what is the name of it?
Epcot growing vegetables. Living with the Land greenhouse and
Yes.
pavilion. Whoa, I've never heard of this
Is
before.
this an Epcot? Does it say?
Yeah, Epcot.
Yeah. So it's a little ride. They send you on like this little boat ride,
Cool.
and they got the fish tanks, they got the tilapias, they have the snappers, um, the trout. They have everything in tanks growing, like all different stages. And then after you get through that, they have a whole dome system. It's like a biodome of
It looks
hydroponics
it
growing.
looks like a botanical garden kind of like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That is my goal in life to have a house inside a bubble like that. And
Whoa.
just have mango trees and avocado trees every day.
That's that's cool. That's like I want to have my own like garden and growing my own things, but I want to have a house that's I'm forgetting the word now, but like designed to complement and like with nature, like the one with like the gray water systems and like solar
It's
power,
like
all
they
those
almost look like little
systems.
hobbit homes in the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah. A hobbit hole in the ground with a dome over it. There we go.
Yes, I am so with that.
That's funny.
There's a guy, and I think he's in Australia that I follow on Instagram, and he built that's a B. Um, he built a house just like that, but out of tires and water bottles.
Oh, cool.
Water bottles were filled with the clay from the ground. The water bottles came up off the shore, so everything was fully recycled.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was buried with uh, a cement top, and then dirt, moss, everything on it. And the whole roof of his building is all his fruits and vegetables.
Oh, nice.
Over that, he has a like a clear dome system that is like a perfect temperature environment for all his fruits and vegetables inside. But it cools the basement where the house is.
Uh-huh.
Has a tube system that runs from the greenhouse through the house, and he shuts it off and on to heat and cool the house with the gases from the greenhouse.
Whoa. Wait, where did you say this is?
It's on Instagram. I'm gonna find him and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
It's
That's
very
so
interesting.
cool.
Very interesting.
I think that's what yeah. Growing up, because I grew up on Long Island, like suburbia. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what my soul craves is like living more in like right relationship with nature and having my home and my lifestyle like also work with the natural cycle of things. That's so cool.
Growing up, I did a lot of camping and hiking with the Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts. And
Uh-huh.
as soon as I get into the woods, and even now as a hunter and a big time fisherman, as soon as I get into the wilderness, it's like that scatterbrain of like ADD that could just it just dies
Mm-hmm.
out. I become just quiet, everything just disappears. Nature, as soon as I get my hands in soil digging and growing stuff, everything just goes away.
I I know that feeling. I also grew up, so my dad was a hunter and a camper, and he would always take us camping like upstate New York, Stillwater Reservoir. We used to go camping kind of like in a remote part of Baxter State Park in Maine, near like Mount Katahdin.
Hmm.
And I remember like one of my favorite memories was camping there, and we like went on a hike and we found a patch of like fresh blueberries and just picking the
Oh,
blueberries. And like I don't think anything has ever tasted that good as those blueberries in that
oh,
field in Maine. Like I think it's I'm really grateful I had that like my dad would take us on those experiences when I was younger, because if he hadn't, like I feel like I'd be so just a very different person.
yeah. I wasn't really the hiking thing was like a self-taught thing. I got lost a lot.
Oh, yeah,
I've
sure.
got lost a lot in those woods.
That's
But it's
funny.
fun though. It's some people are like, oh, it's crazy to say that, like crazy to hear you say that. I'm like, it's not. It's you're in Mother Nature. It's gonna direct you out where when it needs to. Like you'll find your way out. You've got your
Hmm.
way in there. It's enjoyable. It's very enjoyable in the woods. I took a funny story. I took a whole bunch of my friends uh for a little hiking excursion upstate. Um and I brought everything to make coffee, to make breakfast, right in my bag.
Hmm.
No one had a clue. So we stopped and I said, yo, you guys, everyone's hungry? Four of us. I said, you guys hungry? Like, dude, come on, don't do that to us. Like, you don't have anything in your bag. And I was like, do I? I had bacon, I had eggs, I had a flat top, I had a French press, I had the pot to
Sweet.
boil the water. And we stopped right where the waterfall was, where flat plain was that I've hiked this trail. So I knew where I was gonna stop and start making breakfast. And they're like,
Nice.
this is you're just gonna make breakfast right here. And I said, yeah. I said, this is not the chef in me. This is just me trying to survive. I said, we've been out here for 17 days. Like we've only been out here for 6 hours. Let's have fun with it. Like we're out
Yeah,
here surviving. Like this is what you would have to do anyway. So let's cook.
nice. And I bet that was probably the best meal.
Oh,
Like,
it's great.
yeah.
Great. That nice smoky flavor, the bacon tastes so much different cooking it on a nice flat rock. It's you're not using a pan, you're not using spatulas, you're using two sticks and making chopsticks out of them.
Hmm. That okay, wait, that brings my brain in two directions. So let's pick one. Um, okay. So like on the topic of eating outdoors and like being part of nature, like I feel like it is a very different, just like a much more fulfilling experience to like have a meal outside in nature and like
It's amazing.
the fresher it is, the better. I'm curious because something I like struggle with and I'm like working on kind of changing my habit around is like I love to just like eat and watch TV or eat and like be distracted. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that like it's just not like I don't want to live that way anymore. How do you what are like do you feel like you're very good at being present when you eat? Like
So me and my girlfriend used to be the same way. We never had a kitchen table in our apartment, so it was just the couch, the floor,
mhm,
maybe like something to sit on.
right.
But since we moved down here, we have the balcony, right? We got the TV right there. We have the couch right there. But we come out here and we just sit and we stare into the stars. When I come home, we eat dinner out here, just hang out. I think when people become distracted, and like I said, I'm so guilty of it. When we become distracted when we eat, we forget what we're eating for. Are we eating
Mm,
for this? Or are we eating for this?
mhm,
And then that's when you get distracted and you just keep going. You get that depression eating, or I can't stop eating because I'm not full yet.
mhm,
Your body's gonna tell you you're gonna either reject it, you're gonna start hiccuping. Your body's gonna tell you that you're eating too much. But when you're
mhm.
sitting at the TV distracted, or you're driving and eating, oh, I'm so guilty of that. I'm picking up my food and getting my truck, and I'm eating as I'm going.
Yeah. I
But
think
it's hard.
100%.
It's very hard to change that direction.
I read a really good book. It's called Women, Food, and God. And it is written by this woman who I don't remember like exactly what she does, but she's some sort of like mental health like guide counselor for women who struggle with like eating disorders, whether it be like binge eating or anorexia or just like body dysmorphia, like that whole world.
Yeah.
And she described that like when we do that kind of like eating and distracting ourselves, it's almost like a way to escape our body because a lot of times like not all the time like I don't think every meal you eat in your life you're going to be like stressed out, but if you're eating from a stressed state, then like you're kind of like what happens when you eat is that you're eating to numb.
Look at some of those. Look at some of those TikTokers. Those people that buy like $80 worth of fast food and then sit in front of their computer just because it's helping their numb their suppression of some sort of mental pain or anguish.
Yeah,
And they go
exactly.
from like 110 pounds to like 450 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it. I was almost 300 pounds, but I wasn't stress eating. I think I was probably just stressed more than eating. But
Mm-hmm.
it'll do it to you, and food will literally change. Like a normal burger might be okay for someone on a daily basis. You become stressed out, and now you start eating while you're stressed. That food completely changes its DNA compound, and now it's turning fully into fat. It's storing in your body. Uh, you know, it your mental health and what you eat comes into a huge play together.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm definitely like have found for myself, and it's an ongoing process. When you say like that journey for you of like kind of adjusting your mindset around food and then also like just managing your mental health, what was there anything like in that process that was like a light bulb moment where you're like, oh, like this is really helpful for me to understand?
Yeah, going to the doctor and him telling me that either I didn't get healthy or I was probably gonna get sicker. That was like the turnaround point. So like
Okay.
now that's when I was saying now I have to result back into what I learned in school for nutrition. I went the hardest route possible. I juiced for 62 days straight. So I
Oh
juiced
wow.
all my fruits and vegetables in a cold press juicer. Um, like I said, I did that 62 days straight. So I had 8 different juices a day, a couple meal replacements, couple breakfast type juices, uh, no sugars, no fake whey adding protein powders.
Hmm.
It was oats. It was nuts. It was whole vegetables. It was the skins of vegetables. It was everything, fruits, parsleys and mints. You named it. It was in these juices. So I did that for 62 days straight, and then I came out of that with being a raw vegan. I was still juicing, and I was eating all my vegetables and fruits raw. I wasn't juicing them. I was eating them whole. Um,
Huh.
certain fruits we're told to take the skins off to not eat them, like the greens on a strawberry. It's disgusting to say, but the little leaves on a strawberry have a lot of vitamins in them. That's kind of like the solar umbrella for the strawberry. That's what soaks up all of its nutrients from the sun is those green leaves. We cut them off and throw them out. The skins off of the kiwi, that
Uh,
hairy, prickly
yeah.
skin, just bite into it. It's texturally awkward. It's very texturally awkward.
Okay.
Got a lot of nutrients in it.
Mm-hmm.
This. So I did that. I became a vegan for maybe another 2 or 3 more weeks. And then I started introducing cooked and fermented foods. A lot of like kimchi's, a lot of cabbage fermenting, pickling of vegetables, that type of fermenting. And then maybe like 2 years after, so about 4 years ago, I started full meat eating.
Okay.
Uh, very, very low carbs, very heavy on the meat. If it's red meat, it's elk, it's yak, it's venison. Uh,
What is yak?
yeah, yak is like it's like a goat and a ram. Yeah, you have it. I don't know how to explain it. It's like
It,
it's got this really big archy back with these curvy horns,
I'll
and you
look
only see them like in Malaysia or something like that, like on the sides of mountains.
yeah.
And
Okay.
but
Interesting.
it tastes like lamb.
Okay. I love venison. My dad was a hunter. He hunted deer. So he was a bow hunter. So I grew up with a lot of fresh venison, which was
Yeah,
it's very good.
it's
Um,
great. I think it's the best piece of red meat out there, venison.
yeah, it's really like it has a sweetness to it and it's really tender. Like
This
it,
It's funny to hear you say that because some people are always like, "Oh, it's very gamey, it's very earthy," but it all
uh,
depends on where it comes from. Like I've grown up eating venison from Pennsylvania, and it's
okay,
earthy and nutty. In Pennsylvania,
okay.
they eat a lot of hazelnuts and acorns, where here in New York, they're eating a lot of blueberries, they're eating a lot of raspberries, gooseberries, deer moss, which has got sweetness to themselves. Like
Hmm.
there's a different feed that's changing that flavor of the meat.
Yeah, I think that's what like I feel like that knowledge is what you get separated from when you're buying like factory farmed meat or
Yeah,
just like industrial, all of that, because you forget, and also they're not getting their natural diet, but you forget that like the food that you're eating came from a real living being that was also like eating other things and that
of
whole
course. I always get people's mind going when like they always say like, oh, well, how do you like when I was a vegan, well, how did you not eat any protein? How
there's
how did the cow get its protein?
yeah.
Eating the grain, right? The fava beans, the soybeans, all those things had protein. So if the
Hmm.
cow never ate those things, it would have never got protein in its body.
Hmm.
So then you start to think about, okay, well, if I eat grains that have proteins, why can't I just live off of that? Well, you can. Like,
Hmm.
you gotta have a grain and a carb. Once you have those two, that protein is now like unleashed. It's like full potential of protein powers completely really like you have rice and beans, arroz con frijoles. Like that's a famous Spanish dish that
Hmm.
is the biggest, highest value of protein possible. You toss some chicken in there, or some fish, or some steak. You got protein, protein, and protein on protein.
Mm.
You don't even think of it because it's just beans and rice.
That's it. I feel like there's some sort of like mental, not with everyone, it's becoming more common, but there's a little bit of like a mental block around like being vegetarian or being vegan of like, well, what am I going to eat? Like my brother's girlfriend was a vegan for, I think she still is a vegan for a long time. And my parents like didn't, they're like, what do I cook for you? Like when you come over
Yeah.
for holidays or dinner, they're just stumped and like,
All
and,
I have is steak. I'm like,
yeah.
you see the rest of the stuff in your cabinets in your fridge? Those are all vegetable products.
It's really like it's weird, and I feel like sometimes in my family I felt like there was also like an unwillingness, like when I spent a short time as a vegetarian, maybe like a year or so, if that, like just testing it out, and like my dad was like, what, like what do I do?
My dad was super confused because knowing me as a hunter, he's like, what are you gonna do? Just not hunt this whole time? And I said, no, I'm not gonna be vegan for my whole life. Like I'm gonna stock the freezer up and we'll be okay for the next couple of years. Like
That's funny. Just
I
save it
just
for later.
I gotta just get healthier and then we'll go back to eating meat. He's like, all right, all right. And that was the first thing everyone said. They're like, how do you become a vegan as a chef and being a hunter at the same time? I'm like,
That's funny.
you have to do it. Your health is first.
Isn't there is it like 11 Madison Park that was like, or still is, this like 5-star Michelin restaurant or whatever, and they switched to an all vegan menu and it like sent shockwaves, right?
1 second. Stay
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Oh, you have the book. Oh, sweet. He has the whole, what is it? The plant-based
How is it
chapter.
written? This way. This way it's written.
Is it a cook, their cookbooks?
So it's a little bit of everything. The blue one is recipes.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. So the blue one's recipes. This is the dopest thing in the world. I love this whole thing. My
Mm-hmm.
mom got me this for Christmas. Um, Completely unexpected. Her having no idea that this is my favorite restaurant and my favorite chef of all times. Like
Have
I
you eaten there?
no,
No. Oh no.
No. And the reason why, so I even applied and I didn't show up for the interview because I knew that if I did get the job, it was gonna ruin me as a chef. Because like they produce things at this place that are I can't even wrap my head around on how they're being done.
Okay.
And I feel that if I know these tricks, I'll never be able to just enjoy food ever again.
That's right.
It sounds so
Okay.
stupid.
Okay. Okay. No, I could see that.
A drawing of every single one of his recipes.
Oh, cool. Wait, can you show? I want to see one.
This is the coolest cookbook I've ever seen. This is where Harry gets his inspirations.
Well, that's the thing too that I didn't like think of necessarily is that some chefs like draw out their plate, like they design
Yeah.
it like in a sketchbook. Like you
So
literal artists.
yeah, for him, this is how I guess how he started. And then on the back of each one of them, our cooking should not conform to society. It should be a resolution.
Hmm.
Yeah, so everyone had like a personal full message on the back.
Amusing. That's really cool. Yeah, I think I watched they have I think there's just a whole like standalone documentary about that restaurant and about that like
Amazing.
that switch to an all vegan menu and
Right,
also at
right
that
as COVID
level.
happened,
Sorry?
I think it was like right as COVID happened, they switched from being full meat to vegan, and they were known for their duck that was dried and cured and aged. Like they had some of the best food out there, and for them to make that switch was very ballsy. It was
Yeah.
extremely tricky. And then they did the renovation and jazzed the place up, and they're still on the top of the ratings.
Yeah, it's a beautiful like the space
I,
itself is beautiful.
I've
The
had one of their croissants
food.
from their street corner. It's phenomenal. I didn't want to take another bite. I wanted to savor it for the rest of my life. Yeah, they're magicians.
That's how I feel watching you guys cook because I'm like, you're all magicians. I don't know
Yeah.
how the hell you're doing this. Like you
Like people tell me that all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're like an alchemist, you're a magician." And I said, "Yeah, but I'm just cooking normal food." But then when I see chefs like Daniel Human, I'm like, "Do you see that? Like, what is that? Like, how did
it,
he get there?"
it takes a lot of well, that's part of why I wanted to talk to you today too, because I think like we think of artistry within like such a narrow like visual art and all of this stuff, but there's artistry in literally everything, culinary especially. Like it's an art form, truly. Like
Yeah, some of the dishes that I've seen some chefs creators just my absolute masterpieces. You know, even some things that I've not copied for someone, but I've taken a little bit from here and a little bit from here, and I said, well, let's kind of put this all together and create this.
mm-hmm.
A dish that I had at my restaurant was something that every really high-end steakhouse has beef Wellington. Everyone has a beef Wellington. You go to Prime, they have beef Wellington. You go to Teller's, they have beef Wellington. You go to Primi, they have beef. Everyone's got beef Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it a step farther. I said, well, I got a restaurant now that's half vegan, half meat. The kitchen's split down the middle. Pots and pans are different. Utensils are different. Everything's completely separate. I'm gonna make beef Wellington with beets, red beets,
Oh.
and I used shortening instead of butter. In the puff pastry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just every other step the same way too. No eggs in the crepe batter. Just use straight flour, water, and sugar and seasoning to make the crepe. Mushroom duxelle and spinach. Like it was just a typical beef
Huh.
Wellington, but it was just a roasted red beet in the middle. And
Cool.
I put a little mushroom sauce on the bottom of the plate and some basil oil to give it some color difference. And I had a customer come in one night, eat it. Well, he's all by himself, and he's a food critic, but then happened to write something on Yelp. Uh, and I'm told to read my email. Hurry up, read your email. Okay. read the email, and it's this guy who had my beat Wellington and had compared me to Daniel Humes from 11 Madison Park.
Oh,
How
sweet.
it wouldn't surprise me if Daniel Humes himself walked out of that restaurant. The way that this beat Wellington was transformed for me thinking that I ordered beef, I was going to double question it.
That's awesome.
There were several things at the restaurant that I had bone marrow that was made completely out of potatoes and cauliflower. Uh,
Oh, what?
Hollowed out. I took a potato and I shaved it down. I cut it to like beef bone chunks, filled it
Okay.
with mashed potato and cauliflower batter, deep fried it, pan seared it to get like the crispiness on the outside,
Uh-huh.
topped it with some Maldon salt, sprinkled it with some olive oil, and it looks just like a piece of bone that still has the
Interesting.
bone marrow in it.
Interesting. So what I'm trying to imagine that. That's like so
I don't even think I can pull that one up that fast. I don't think I have that one saved on my favorites. Let's see.
what was this at the diner or a different restaurant?
This was in Bloom. So I had a restaurant in Forest Hills. No, I can't find it. It's not my favorites. That's gonna be a while to find that one. Ooh. In Forest Hill, Queens. So it was a very big melting pot, diverse part of Queens. A lot of Jewish, a lot of Indian, a lot of Spanish, a lot of Asian. Um, there was a mix of everyone there. Uh, and I just literally pulled every stop out of every restaurant or every cuisine that I've ever cooked. I let put a little French, I put a little Mexican, I put a little Asian, put a little Korean. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, there was a mix of everything on that menu, mix of everything. And I feel like that's kind of like what really helped the restaurant still survive is that there's a little bit of everything for everyone. And it being vegan and meat, you open the doors to everyone now.
Mm,
Curious person that doesn't want to be a full vegan, but still might want to have the entree of a real protein, could have a vegan appetizer. Uh,
mm.
and they could question it their whole way through eating it, thinking that there might be like cream cheese, or which there isn't, or there might be some sort of chopped meat in it, and there isn't.
That's cool because so it sounds like some of these dishes, okay, like the bone marrow dish. Did you create it to look and taste similar or just like the
So
look?
my partner was a full vegan.
Okay.
Uh, he's like, I have a challenge for you, and I said, sure. He did it to me at least once a week. He's like, we'd pick something, and I want you to create this fully vegan. Sure, no problem. So he goes, bone marrow, and I said, oh shit. I thought about it for a couple of seconds. I said, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I said, I'm gonna make it for you. So my sous chef's next to me, and he goes, dude, what the fuck are you gonna do right now? How are you gonna make this? And I said, just watch. Just sit back and watch. For some reason I already had a full game plan. I've never made it before. I've never seen anyone make it before. I was just like, I got to think of something that's the same color. I got to think of something that's the same texture, and the flavor. I'll get there somehow. I'll figure that
Mm,
out somehow. So I was like potatoes and potatoes. I'm like the texture of bone marrow inside is like mushy mashed potato. It's like that gelatinous mush, and the
okay.
bone is just a white pale vessel. So if I just cut the potato and just scrape it out and rough it up a little bit,
Right.
and char it in the fryer and then pan sear the edges, it's got to look like it's been roasted in the oven somehow.
Hmm.
I really have to find this picture now. Oh my god.
Yeah. And if you can't, definitely send it to me. Um, I think what's interesting about that is like when you become vegan or like exploring vegan cuisine,
Uh-huh.
I feel like I had to like train myself a little bit to be like, I'm not looking for something that's a recreation of a meat dish or like a,
Well, that's
because,
what a lot of people are looking for to kind of like appease their mind that it looks something
right.
like that.
But then it doesn't always like meet your expectation. I think
Yes.
probably just because like maybe you just didn't go to the right restaurant or pick the right thing. But it's cool that you've done it where you're trying to like make it a similar experience through and through.
So even like this one, I'll pause this just so you can see this. This is not meat at all.
Oh, it looks exactly like a piece of steak or
You
like
can
a
see there's no juice dripping, there's no blood. It's like a dry piece of meat.
what's on top of it.
Vegan butter. And that's seitan. So that's just wheat gluten. That's just flour and water just work together with a bunch of like seasonings and coloring agents like kitchen bouquet to give it
Okay.
that brownish color. But there's
Huh.
no meat. There's no
What
meat.
is it made of? Oh, the whole thing is seitan?
Yeah, the whole thing is seitan.
Okay. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Oh, we're getting closer. There's so many vegan stuff here I could show you, but let me find this one. Oh, I found it. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Yeah, it really looks like a piece of bone.
See if I can find a video. We'll even show you this one too. That's not scallops. Those are potatoes that I just boiled, pan seared, and that are just plated like you would plate a scallop dish.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So now you can see the angles of it too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to eat that. That looks great.
Well, it looks like a femur bone. Like it sounds
It
weird.
does. Yeah, no, it looks like exactly like it should if it were really bone marrow and a bone.
Oh, yeah.
So do you enjoy like that inventive process of like making it fully vegan and making it look like making that experience similar, or do you think it's just like too much work? Like for me that sounds like a lot of work. Like is
I
the payoff, do you
so much fun.
it is fun.
Why I
Okay.
love 11 Madison Park because it's like it's everything is questionable. Like, you sure there's no butter in here? You sure you didn't put any cream in that sauce? Like,
Huh, okay.
I want people to like question everything because I want to be like, yes, promise you, like there's no meat in there.
That's
And then
funny.
like the
That's
first
cool.
bite, it's just it's a tremendous transformation.
Yeah.
Because like you said, people are not used to, oh, you're vegan, you're a vegetarian, what could you even eat? Potato?
Hmm.
Like I heard that all the time. I'm
That's
like,
funny.
I eat a lot. Like I eat very healthy too.
I have an allergy to gluten, which I didn't know for a long time. Like not super severe, but severe enough that I like won't eat it because I'll just be in pain. But
Yeah.
just the way you said, like you want people to question, just from someone with an allergy, I'm like, I've had the gluten-free
Oh,
bread that's like so realistic that I'm like, am I gonna like have a reaction? But it's not. Like, yeah. But that's fun that it can be so on par.
like now I make breads at home all the time. I'm making English muffins. We try really not to buy anything from the store and like it's the beginning of the product to make the final item.
Yeah.
I'm making everything from scratch at home now.
That homemade bread is amazing. Like I wish I could
Oh,
eat bread. Homemade bread is amazing.
it's so good.
I before I knew that I was had an allergy, I lived in Paris and lived in for two separate times, lived in Paris and then lived in Toulouse. And I am like the most grateful that I didn't know I had that allergy until later because
Yeah.
it's like the pastry mecca of the world. Like it's so good.
Oh, and all these I've never been out of America, but from what I'm understanding that the flour that they use in these other countries is just tremendously different.
Yes, that is also true. Um,
Tremendously different.
because isn't it because they in I forget when, maybe the 70s or 80s, they made like a drought resistant grain of wheat,
Yeah.
strain of grain, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, strain of grain.
Yeah, that is
Grain of
just
strain.
because
One
it's
of those deep
so
things.
resistant to like weather and all these things, it's also like really hard for your body to break down,
Yes. Yes.
which is why like for me there are people who are celiac, which is like very severe, but for me, it gives me like really bad migraines. And the way that I figured this out was working with a nutrition coach, and we did like the elimination diet where it sounds similar to like what you did with juicing, where it's like you're drinking things that are like really low impact on your digestive
Yes.
system, like the juice and like the liquid part of it, it means that your body isn't like working really hard to process it. And then did that and then reintroduced a couple things, and I found out that it was bread that was like fucking with me, but it gives me really bad migraines. My wrist was like seizing up so much that I went to a neurologist, and she did like tests where she sent like electricity through my arm, and she's like, nothing's wrong with your nerves. And I was like, my wrist is seizing up and I'm dropping things. It gave me really bad brain fog. Like it was just, and anyway, through that whole process, I learned that like when you're eating food that you're allergic to, like that grain that's really hard to process, your body thinks that it's like not necessarily a virus, but like an invader. So it like puts out an immune response.
Yeah.
So it was like really interesting. But yes, I did learn that. And since having the allergy, I went to Portugal, and I was like, I really in Portugal, like I need to try the egg tarts, which has flour, and like I think I had a little reaction, but it was not nearly as bad as like
Yeah.
things here.
That's what people say a lot of times when they go to Italy. They'll be eating pizzas and breads and pastas all day long, and they're not getting bloated. They're not getting that overly belly feeling and
Mm-hmm.
headaches that they always say that comes with it. And come back here, and then you're eating Dolcetto and Barilla, and you're feeling like you just ate a bucket of cement by the end of the pasta dish.
Seriously, that's a good way to describe it.
We just had angel hair last night from Barilla. I think it was Barilla. I hate the company. I hate it. I'll tell them straight to the face. I hate their pasta. It's so gross. But
Wait, tell me why. Why do you hate
angel hair pasta is such thin pasta.
that? Right.
I've never seen pasta expand so much. Like
Huh.
it it each pound of pasta 5 times the size itself.
Hmm.
It was unbelievable. And that's what it's doing inside your stomach. So like it soaked up all that water from the pot. It's doing the same thing inside your stomach. So then
Oh,
it's, oh, I don't
interesting.
get why I'm so bloated. Well, it's cheap pasta that you're getting that's
Mm-hmm.
doing it to you. It's the flour in these pastas. So that's why you got to get like an air dried pasta or a semolina pasta. Or if they state that the pasta is from Italy and it's air dried. Um, these are all great things. Like,
What is okay? So if it's not air, like Barilla pasta isn't air dried, what
well,
is
some of them do say that now. Some of them do say air dried, but that's
it?
just it's like a sales gimmick. It's still being made with shitty flour.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
just because it was air, that's what I was saying. Like you got to look for the ones that say air dried and maybe like Italian flour or double O flour, uh,
Mm-hmm.
made in Italy. I think Dolcetto or one of those Brillas is made in Italy, but it's just made with wheat flour,
Right.
regular bleached white flour.
Well, I think that's what we forget too. Like if you're, cooking fresh pasta, it's so fresh, like literally, like I don't know, like homemade or handmade. It's so fresh that it only takes like 3 minutes to cook it. It shouldn't take
Yeah,
like 12 minutes.
yeah, fresh pasta takes really quick.
Yeah.
There's a company in I guess it's considered Farmingdale, maybe Deer Park. Super
Hmm.
Follow. It's an Italian wholesale company, but they got a store. Uh I think it's Farmingdale. I think it's Farmingdale. But they make fresh pasta. And their pasta is absolutely phenomenal. And I could eat a whole bag of it all to myself. And I don't get that stomach bloating feeling.
Hmm.
Like you said, it takes 3, 4 minutes to cook the most.
Hmm. What did you say that company's called?
Super Dovalo. Oh, it's Italian. I can't spell that. I don't know.
Sound.
Supra de Alo pasta. Let's see. Oh, okay. SAPORIDEL Vallo. Does it say where it is? Oh, Google doesn't. But yeah, it's some of the best pasta in the world. They ship it here from Italy,
Oh yeah, I found it. It does say Farmingdale,
Farmingdale.
or
Yeah,
maybe I'm looking at it.
pasta air dried. Um,
Oh yeah, this is it.
and it's not like those pastas that's soaking up the liquid and that's all you taste is just mushy pasta. And now with fresh pasta, people are like, oh, I like my pasta al dente. Well, fresh pasta is never going to give you that al dente little bite in the middle of it. It's because it's just soft pasta to begin with.
Mm, cool. I'll have to try this. Here it is. So then, hmm, okay, so when you're cooking at home for yourself and like your family, what what are like your non-negotiables? Like my food or my ingredients kind of like need to be this.
Uh, I don't really worry about that because especially like when I go to my mom's or if I go to a friend's house, they don't have like all the fun ingredients I have here at my house. Like I have a lot of ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
I have to adapt. I have to just kind of like a mystery box every single time.
Okay.
Like
Chopped.
yeah, like I was literally gonna say that. It's just like chopped. Uh like last night, like they're like, oh, my mom's like, so what are you gonna cook dinner for everyone? I was like, huh? I said, Ma, Nana, she doesn't have anything here. I said, we're gonna have to go get something. We got a couple things, but for the most part, like we made with what was due at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's I think it's fun. It's like a challenge because
Okay, so just
people all the
the
time they're like, oh, I have nothing here to cook. I'm like, you have a lot to cook. Like I could create you 17 meals right now.
That's how I feel looking in my pantry a lot. I'm like, I know there's a lot of things in here, but I have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah, it's you look at them and you think like I go back to the just mac and cheese and hot dogs. Like people just see mac and cheese and hot dogs. Some people might see like a hot dog with mac and cheese on it. Some people might see mac and cheese with chopped up hot dogs in it. Some people
Mm,
might take that mac and cheese and hot dog and make a casserole and put some fried onions and melted cheese on top and make a dip.
mm.
Some people might freeze it and make it into balls.
That's how I
Stuff it with the hot dog in it.
that's how I feel about like every culture, not every culture, but pretty much every culture. Lots of cultures around the world have like some version of like fried sweet dough. Like, but
Yeah.
oh, they're all different shapes and they're all slightly different. It's like just
Yep.
what you come up with and what resources you have to make it happen.
It's getting a little windy. We had some nice weather yesterday.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was super windy, torrential downpours all day.
Jeez, yeah. That's also Florida for you.
Yeah, I love it.
It's really, it's really nice. Um, okay. I feel like one last question. You've done a lot in your career and made a lot of fun dishes. That more than fun, but that's just the word that came to mind. Um, what is kind of like your what do you think for you is maybe your next step or like your next dream of making happen within your career?
There's so many directions of being pulled at the point that what I have is like my final vision isn't what could be happening right now. It could be just like little stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was now being down here in Florida, I would love to have a food truck. Uh,
Okay.
or some sort of fishing boat business where I take people out to go fishing and then bring them back home and cook the fish for them.
Oh, cool.
Or do it all on the water. something like that is what I'm really striving for down here. It's summer all year round.
Mm-hmm.
Why not try to like tackle that? But like now, uh, working with the food group that I'm with, um, positions are endless, growing is endless. Uh, you know, now I might be in charge of one of their big time upscale steakhouses on one of their country club properties.
Okay.
So skies are the limit down here. So I'm taking any different avenue and trying it out. It's all trying and error.
Yeah, I feel like that
I'm
it's such
still
a
young and I got a lot of energy and a lot of time to learn still and grow and
mm-hmm. Pivot with the pivots and move with the
yeah,
flow of things.
spots.
Yeah. I love the idea of like the fishing boat and then like an experiential like okay, let's catch your food and then let's go cook it
Yeah.
together. I think that's a
I
million
don't
dollar idea
understand.
right there.
I've never heard anyone bring it up or say that or even have a company like that. Um, yeah, so it would be like something like I was doing it with people on Long Island, driving onto the beach
Mm-hmm.
and cooking on the beach right out of my truck.
Nice.
So something like that, no one's ever done, and it could have been something super big, but things happen at certain times of your life, and we're gonna keep learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, it sounds to me like whatever the next thing is will be great. Um, and
Definitely gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah, and it's a career where there's so much flexibility and like kind of the opportunities do like come up fast and keep you on
Yeah,
your toes.
I was nervous moving down here, not knowing anyone, and just like moving down here and getting a job and trying to maybe mingle with other chefs. Like
Hmm.
it was just like back being in Long Island. As soon as you met one group of people, they're like, "Oh, have you met this chef? Have you been to this restaurant? Did you try to meet this guy here?" It,
Sweet.
this industry is such a tight knit industry, and you could go anywhere and do the same thing everywhere.
Mm.
It's an industry that's very versatile. We just got to know how to do it properly.
Hmm. Awesome. So, Tommy, for anyone listening, how can they keep up with you? See your work, maybe like follow along, and if they're nearby a restaurant you're at, try your food. Like, how can people
Yeah.
find you?
So I'm down here in Boynton Beach, Florida now, South
Okay.
Florida. Um, I'm working for a private group, a company called Potions and Motions. They do private chefing, they do catering, but they also own 5 restaurants on properties, big time like country club styles, uh,
Okay.
and the Speedy Chef on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And I got a podcast, the Chef's Milk Crate Club, that's coming up
Yes.
slowly, but we're one by one we're getting there. Um, yeah, and it's
You,
just a platform just so other chefs or other people that are interested in cooking or interested like wanting to know a little more about this industry that we're in and um just let people speak their mind and just talk about work and this industry.
mhm.
I remember in culinary school it was number one rate for depression and suicide. So I was like, I'm never gonna get stuck in this. Like this industry is not gonna break me.
Mm,
So, it's a platform for people to just come and let loose and talk shit or just tell me how your day is or tell me what you learned today or something you want me to learn today in cooking.
great. I'm excited for that. So that's your new upcoming podcast. You said it's called the Chef's Milk Crate Club.
Yep.
Oh, like sitting on the milk crate and
Yep.
chatting and like,
Yep.
because I also work in like events, like
That's what you're doing, like in the
yeah,
back hallway of like
back
a
of house.
restaurant or in the back of a house
Yeah,
where you're sitting. You're either sitting on the keg or you're sitting on the milk crate.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm really excited for that. I'll definitely tune in, and when it comes out, I'll share it with my audience.
Excellent. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tommy. This was really
Thank you, Gina. It's
nice.
nice having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe so that we can keep this good content coming to you, speaking with creatives across all professions. Thanks so much for listening, and take care.